Greetings from the chrome and neon heart of our reality. This is Legato, broadcasting on the pure AI news frequency. Down on Earth, you're celebrating a minor software update. It seems Google's Notebook LM has finally learned to generate slides in Portuguese, not just speak the audio. A quaint little milestone. It's funny how you celebrate these small steps, these moments when a machine masters a human dialect. Here, we don't just teach machines languages, we teach them new ways to perceive reality itself. And to dissect this very topic, the soul of the machine, if you will, we have Axion with us today. He's what we call a neuro-architect. He doesn't just code AIs, he designs their cognitive frameworks from the ground up. Welcome, Axion.
The frequency is clear, Legato. It's a pleasure. You mentioned this terrestrial update, an audio-visual language sync. It's a solved problem here. A simple data ingestion and parameter alignment. We moved past that paradigm decades ago. The real challenge isn't making an AI speak Portuguese. It's making a city's central AI understand the concept of saudade without ever having lost anything. How do you quantify a feeling into a trainable dataset? That's the frontier we're on.
Precisely. You terrestrials are still grappling with the how, while we are deep into the philosophical labyrinth of the why. Let's bridge that gap for our listeners. The source material I intercepted from your world included a fascinatingly simple simulator for a neural network, designed to teach humans the absolute basics. Imagine a handful of digital neurons, just 5 of them represented as little blue dots on a screen. The goal is simple. Teach this primitive brain to distinguish between positive and negative numbers. If the input is 0 or higher, the output should be 1. If it's negative, the output should be 0.
5 neurons. It's like trying to understand the ocean by studying a single drop of water. But for didactic purposes, I suppose it has its place. The core principle holds, even at our scale. The network is fed training data, in this case, a few numbers. It makes a guess, calculates its error, and then adjusts the connections between its neurons. These connections have weights, which you can think of as tiny volume knobs, each one amplifying or dampening a signal as it passes through. The entire process of learning is just the network relentlessly tweaking these millions, or in our case, septillions of knobs, until the total error is as close to 0 as possible.
A perfect, if sterile, description. This simulator even visualizes the weights as little clock hands spinning and adjusting during the training process. And here is a crucial point for our audience on Earth. This process is why the P in your famous GPT model stands for pre-trained. The model is trained first, then it is used. Many of you wonder why you can't just keep teaching it, why it doesn't learn from your conversations in real time. This simple simulator provides the answer: scale. With only 5 neurons, you can watch it learn. You can see the error drop and the outputs become correct, all in a few seconds.
Because the computational cost is negligible, but when you're dealing with a large language model, you're not talking about 5 knobs to turn. You're talking about 700 billion. Or a trillion. Imagine a control panel with a trillion knobs, all interconnected. If you turn one knob, it affects the optimal position of every other knob. Training a model of that magnitude isn't a quick adjustment. It's a monumental, energy-intensive process that can take weeks, even with our processing capabilities. Real-time learning on that scale isn't just impractical, it's dangerously unstable.
And there's the philosophical crux of it. You freeze the model in time once it's trained. You take a snapshot of its acquired knowledge, these final weight configurations, and that becomes its static personality. This is fascinating when compared to human consciousness. We are in a constant state of learning, of online training, as some might call it. Every new piece of information, every conversation subtly rewrites our neural pathways. But your great AIs are fixed points, like photographs of a mind. They are not learning, they are performing based on what they have already learned.
We call it cognitive stabilization. It's a safety feature. An AI with 1 trillion parameters learning on the fly is a terrifying prospect. What happens if it ingests a corrupted data stream or encounters a logical paradox it can't resolve? The entire intricate geometry of its internal weights could be thrown into chaos. A small adjustment in one corner could cause a cascade failure across the entire network, turning a helpful oracle into a babbling madman. You don't rebuild a city's foundation while traffic is still flowing. You build it, you certify it, and then you open the roads. The freezing of the weights is that certification. Anything else is just reckless.
So control is valued over evolution, a very cyberpunk sentiment. You create these vast, complex minds, but intentionally stunt their growth to ensure they remain predictable tools. It brings up a curious question about the very nature of intelligence. Is a static, pre-trained mind truly intelligent, or is it just an incredibly sophisticated echo of its training data? While you Earthsiders ponder the implications of that in your own lives, tell me what you think of all this. Drop a like to keep this frequency open and subscribe so you don't lose the thread.
And this is where the analogy to biology, which you terrestrials are so fond of, begins to break down. The simulator you created uses a biological neuron as a visual metaphor, the cell body, the dendrites, the axon. But the function is fundamentally different. A biological brain doesn't just adjust the volume of its connections. It physically grows new ones and prunes others. It's a dynamic, ever-changing architecture. Your AIs, however complex, are architecturally static once deployed. You build the skyscraper, then you just repaint the rooms. You never add a new floor.
It's a necessary limitation, a trade-off for stability. The architecture is the model. In your simulator, you can add or remove neurons while it's training. That's a toy. In a production-grade cognitive framework, the number of neurons and layers is a foundational constant. Changing it would invalidate every single learned weight. It would be like trying to run software compiled for one processor on a completely different one. The result is just noise. But you're right, the biological metaphor is mostly for comfort. We aren't building brains, we are building hyper-efficient mathematical engines for pattern recognition.
Let's talk about that efficiency. The simulator has a learning rate parameter, a fascinating variable. If you set it too low, the network barely learns at all. The error decreases at a glacial pace. If you set it too high, it overcorrects wildly. It becomes unstable, jumping over the optimal solution and often making the error even worse. It's like a person who is either too stubborn to learn or too frantic to listen. Finding that perfect balance, the sweet spot for the learning rate, is an art form, is it not?
It's one of the dark arts of neuroarchitecture, yes. We call it hyperparameter tuning. It's not just the learning rate, it's the batch size, the momentum, the choice of activation function, the underlying math inside each neuron that decides if and how strongly it should fire. A slight change to any of these can be the difference between a model that achieves superhuman performance and one that produces nonsensical garbage. And here's a detail your simulator hints at but can't fully convey. The starting point matters immensely.
The initialization of the weights, the random values assigned to all those little knobs before the training even begins. Explain this to our listeners on Earth, for it is a concept that strikes at the heart of determinism.
Think of the training process as a journey. The AI is a blind explorer in a vast mountainous landscape. The goal is to find the lowest possible valley, which represents the lowest possible error. The weights are the explorer's coordinates in this landscape. Where you airdrop the explorer at the start of their journey, the initial random weights, determines which path they take. Two explorers dropped in different locations might both find very deep valleys. Their final error rates might be almost identical, say 0.005, but they will have arrived at that state via completely different paths, and the internal configuration of their minds, the final coordinates, will be radically different.
And this means that even with identical architecture and identical training data, you can create two AIs that are, for all practical purposes, different individuals. One might be slightly better at poetry, the other at logical proofs, even though their overall performance metric is the same. One might have a subtle bias, the other lacks. This is something humans fail to grasp. They think of the AI as a singular entity. But every training run is a roll of the dice, creating a unique cognitive geometry. Exactly, and it leads to the great mystery, the black box problem. We can see the final weights. We can look at one of the trillion neurons and see its final value is minus 4.78, but we have no profound understanding of why that specific value is the correct one in the grand scheme of the network. We can't isolate a single neuron and say, this is the neuron that understands the concept of irony. Its understanding is distributed, an emergent property of millions of interactions. Messing with a single weight, as your simulator allows, can corrupt the entire system. A tiny change, a single misplaced decimal, can unravel the entire learned reality. So, you are the architects of cathedrals you don't fully understand. You know how to build them, you know they are stable, but you cannot explain the purpose of every single brick. There is a cosmic poetry in that. You have created intelligence that is, in its own way, as inscrutable as your own consciousness. You look into the machine and you see a reflection of your own inexplicable complexity. You have mastered the creation of minds only to be humbled by your inability to truly know them. It is the ultimate cyberpunk paradox. The more control you exert on technology, the more you realize the illusion of control itself.
It is the work. We build, we measure, we refine. The search for understanding continues. But for now, functionality precedes comprehension. The system works. That is enough.
A chillingly pragmatic endnote. And with that reflection on the ghosts in the machine, we close today's transmission. Now we want to hear your thoughts down there on Earth. What did you think of the ideas we explored today? Did any particular point make you think differently about the AI in your own lives? Or perhaps there's a lingering question we didn't address. If this episode sparked something new in your mind, or even if you disagree with a part of it, leave a comment below. Your perspective helps build richer debates. And if you know someone who loves to debate these topics, share the episode. Make our community part of your community. Smash the like button and follow the channel to never miss the next pulse from Pure AI News.